All right, everybody. Good evening. What is going on? Hope you guys are doing well. And over the last week or so, maybe week and a half, I've done a couple of videos talking about the Seattle Seahawks maybe being a little bit disrespected. So you could call this another video in that genre. We're talking a little bit more about the Seahawks getting disrespected this offseason. And if you guys have been on the channel for a while, you guys know I'm not usually one to go in for this kind of stuff. But the team just win the Super Bowl last year, so I did think that there might be a little bit more attention paid and respect paid to the team that they have put together. And in some ways, there has been, don't get me wrong. I mean, we did a video yesterday talking about how Leonard Williams kind of came off the top rope out of nowhere to rank #1 on the ESPN list for best interior defensive line. But then you got something like this. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks, and today, the ESPN series, which, by the way, is the combination of NFL executives, coaches, and scouts giving their take on who the best players at each positions are. They did tight ends. And I'll tell you, I didn't know if Seattle was going to have a guy on the list, but I thought for sure that Seattle would have a guy getting mentioned on this list. So let's take a look at their tight end list, looking for A.J. Barner. So we get through the top of the list here. You got Brock Bowers, sure. Trey McBride, right? George Kittle, getting older, but okay. I do think this list tends to reward guys that have been really good in the past and kind of ignores what they are now, but okay. Sam Laporta, all right. Tyler Warren, probably a little bit overzealous there. I'd probably pull him down a little bit, but he's good. I'm a fan. Tucker Kraft, okay. Holston Loveland, maybe. Maybe. That's a little bit of a tricky one. He's a great receiver, but not necessarily much of a blocker. Some would argue he's barely a tight end at times, I think. Kyle Pitts, speaking of guys that aren't even really tight ends, Kyle Pitts really isn't, but okay, good player. Mark Andrews, #9. And then you've got Travis Kelce at 10, which, I mean, that one's tough. He's still putting up some numbers, right? But he's kind of a mess. Like, you really watch him, the guy is actually kind of all over the place right now, and I don't know if he should be a top 10 tight end. It's complicated. I know the numbers are still there, but that doesn't make him a good player. So that's your top 10. You will notice there were no Seahawks there. Not terribly surprising, not overly objectionable, right? AJ Barner is, of course, the guy that I'm talking about here. Is AJ Barner a top 10 tight end? I don't know, maybe, maybe not. I don't think there's anything wrong with concluding that he's not, but I think he's very close. And I do believe that this time next year, ESPN is going to be putting out a list that has AJ Barner at least in or at the very cusp of getting onto the top 10 list. I will put it to you that way. And we'll talk about why at the end of the video, because if you guys read this article already, you already know where this video is going. But as we push through the honorable mentions and the other players on this list that are getting that have gotten votes, there will not be a mention of AJ Barner. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. So, yeah, let's dive back in here. Just check to be sure. Honorable mentions include Dalton Kincaid, Pat Freiermuth, Cole Kmet, Jake Ferguson, and Harold Fannin. So that's another 5 guys. No A.J. Barner. Also receiving votes. Of course he'd be here, right? Look at all the guys they have receiving votes. T.J. Hawkinson, Isaiah Likely, Dalton Schultz, Dallas Goedert, Oronde Gadsden, Jawan Johnson, Brenton Strange, Hunter Henry. So that's 15, and then another 8. That's 23 guys. So what this list implies, and I know that it's not necessarily one-to-one to this, but what this indicates is that according to the decision makers and brains out there in the NFL, AJ Barner is not a top 23 tight end. And it does surprise me. I did think that he was going to be on this list in some capacity, even if he was down here. I thought the fact that he was on the team that won the Super Bowl last year would probably push him forward a little bit in a way that you may have not necessarily seen if we hadn't. He did catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl after all. You'd figure a highlight like that would get people's attention. But no, they're telling us that A.J. Barner is one of the worst starting tight ends in football with this. That's the implication, that he's in the bottom 10. Bottom 8? Bottom 9? Whatever. And just to talk about this a little bit, just to specify why this shocks me so much, like, if you just look at the numbers, you might be a little bit unimpressed. Like last year, his first year starting, 52 catches, 520 yards, 6 touchdowns. You're like, okay, that's fine. A lot of these guys have had similar or slightly better seasons. Like Dalton Kincaid has had at least one season where he's had over 600 yards. Freiermuth has gotten up there as well. I think Cole Kmet has done that too. Fannin has only had the 1 year, but he eclipsed 700 yards. Guys like Brenton Strange have pushed up around 550. But here's the thing to keep in mind, and I would expect people that really understand football, which is, I believe, the case for the people they have voting on this, to understand this. A.J. Barner plays in one of the most run-heavy offenses in football. So A.J. Barner is not going to get the opportunities that a lot of these other guys get. Like, look at some of the teams that have tight ends on this list. A lot of them play from behind constantly. And even of the ones who don't, a lot of them are very, very pass-happy teams. Teams that are constantly putting the ball in the air, so therefore it makes sense why their tight ends would put up more numbers. They get more opportunities. That's not an indictment on the player. That's just a statement about the offense. You put A.J. Barner on a pass-happy team, he's absolutely putting up at least 600, probably 700 yards, which would put him on the same level as a lot of these players that we're talking about here. Like, okay, I understand that Travis Kelce's reputation kind of precedes him, and you're somewhat obligated to put him high on this list, even if he doesn't fully deserve it. But, like, what has Dalton Kincaid done to deserve that kind of respect? What has Freiermuth done or Cole Kmet done? Maybe Jake Ferguson, because he's done it for quite a few years now in this league, but I'm looking at a lot of players here that the only difference between their receiving statistics and AJ Barner's are just the fact that AJ Barner plays in a run-happy offense. And that's it. And also, AJ Barner's teams are typically playing from ahead. This last season, his breakout year, he was on a team that went 14-3. A lot of these other players can't say that. Like, I know Brock Bowers was hurt last year, but he was on one of the worst teams in the league. Trey McBride on one of the worst teams in the league. Even the guys who were on good teams, like George Kittle or Tyler Warren, he was on a good team most of the year, I guess. Sam Laporta was on an average team overall. Like, they're not always playing from ahead. And then you have the blocking element here, and I think one thing that we've learned over the last couple of seasons is that blocking tight ends are really valuable. And I'm looking at some guys. I'm looking at some guys on this list who don't bring that to the table. They don't block that well anymore. Like, Even like Tyler Warren, I know he has the reputation of being a good blocker. I don't see it. And then you got guys like Loveland, who doesn't block that much. Kyle Pitts barely blocks at all. And the point I'm trying to make is that AJ Barner is not just a passenger on a team that runs the ball a lot. He's part of the reason why they run the ball as much as they do, because they have a tight end that can block. So when I look at this, I feel like they're missing it again. And you guys know, I'm not somebody who typically complains about nobody respecting this team. But I look at this, I look at guys like Brenton Strange getting votes, or at this point, I'd even say a Dallas Goedert. I don't know if he should be up there, or another guy who's basically a wide receiver playing tight end in Jawan Johnson. And I feel like they're missing it. I feel like they're missing the AJ Barner thing because he doesn't put up as big of numbers. But if you understand football, you should know why he's not putting up the big numbers. He is out there grinding on plays where he doesn't get the ball or even run a route, because he is that two-way tight end that you don't see a lot of in the modern NFL. So I don't know. It feels like this is just kind of a myth. And I understand that these are not just prognosticators and analysts voting on this. This is actually executive scouts and coaches. But I think they're missing something here, man. It's not like AJ Barner was a part-time tight end last year and he was splitting snaps evenly with Elijah Arroyo. Arroyo didn't play that much last year. He was hurt, and then we didn't totally trust him. Barner was absolutely TE1, and the numbers are solid on a team where it's really hard to put up numbers because never mind being run happy. We've got JSN shattering franchise records most of the time when we do throw the ball. So, yeah, this is just, I think, an L. I understood the other two, the edge and running back, but this, no way. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. More stuff for the bulletin board, I guess.